So we didn't get the chance to meet on Monday morning for class, but I wanted to get you started on the most important aspect of our course this semester, which deals with instrument transposition. For no good reason, when many wind instruments play, the pitches you hear are not the same ones the player is reading. While the whole thing is really idiotic, we nevertheless have to deal with it. And what this means this semester is I expect you to become a transposition expert. The whole thing is really quite simple, actually, but if you get careless, it's easy to get yourself confused. So my advice is, don't do that. So here's what you need to understand. All transposing wind instruments have notes that are written for the player to play, and those notes sound at a different pitch. There are written pitches the player reads, and then sounding pitches. For example, if you played a note on a piano, the sounding pitch, and you wanted to write that pitch for a performer to play on a transposing instrument, you'd have to write a different pitch. Idiotic, right? But that's the way it is. There's a very easy secret. If you remember, you should never go wrong. With only a couple rare exceptions, sounding pitches are lower than written. For example, if a clarinet player reads a note and on a part, you would actually hear a lower pitch than what they are reading. Reading, sounding. Sounding pitches are lower than written. So here's your first assignment. Every time you see me over the next couple of weeks, come up to me and say, "Sounds lower than written." And you have to do this thing with your hands. Sounds lower than written. If you just keep this one thing straight, you'll go far in life. Because if you remember it, you'll always know that if you have a written pitch and you want to know what the actual sounding pitch is, you have to go down. Why? Because sounding pitches are lower than written pitches. If you know the actual sounding pitch, and then you want to write it for an instrument to play, you have to go up. Why? Because notes sound lower than they're written. Get it? Because sounding pitch is here, lower than the corresponding written pitch. Why? Because transposing instruments sound lower than they're written. Now comes the part that you simply have to memorize. Transposing instruments basically come in three keys: B flat, E flat, and F. B flat instruments sound a major second lower than written. Sound lower than written. So a trumpet player reading her part and performing a G will sound a major second lower. So the pitch you actually hear will be a what? What pitch is a major second lower than G? Well, if you said F, you win. When a trumpet player reads and plays a G, you hear an F. Well, I told you it was idiotic. Now let's go the other way, but keep doing this with your hands. Sounds lower than written. What if you want a trumpet player to sound a pitch E flat? What would you write? Well, let's see. Sounds lower than written. The sound's in E flat. The sound will be a major second lower than the note you have to write on the trumpet part. So what pitch is a major second higher than our sounding E flat? Well, if you said F, you win again. If you didn't say F, then you need to go back to the start of this video and go through it again. And I'm serious about that. We will have a transposition quiz on Wednesday. Yes, this Wednesday. And it will be an open note quiz, so I hope you're writing things down and doing this with your hands a lot. Sounds lower than written. So let's go back to the three keys in which we find transposing wind instruments: B flat, E flat, and F. As we've already learned, B flat instruments sound a lower second, a major second, than written. Then E flat instruments sound a major sixth lower than written. and F instruments sound a perfect fifth lower than written. For Wednesday, here are the instruments you'll need to remember. Clarinets, soprano saxes, trumpets, cornets, and flugelhorns are all in B flat, and they all sound a major second lower than written. Alto clarinets and alto saxophones are in E flat. They sound a major sixth. They sound a major sixth lower than written. Horns, the curvy brass ones, and English horns, they're in F, and they sound a perfect fifth lower than what's written for them. That's all you need to know. Just keep your hands up, sounds lower than written, and understand which way you need to go. Here are some examples. Listen to each one, stop the video, take your time figuring it out, and then start the video to see the correct answer. Let's start with the horn part, the curvy brass things. So the player is reading and playing a G. What is the sounding pitch? Stop the video and figure it out. Well, it's a C. Why? Because we started with the written pitch, which is higher than the sounding pitch. Remember, sounds lower than written. Say it again. Sounds lower than written. And so a C is a perfect fifth lower than a G. Okay, now let's try an English horn player, and we want him to sound an E flat. We want him to make the pitch sound like an E flat on the piano. So what pitch are we going to write in his part? Stop the video, figure it out. Okay, we want the sound to be an E flat, and sounds, as you know, are lower than written. So we need to go up a perfect fifth to find the written pitch. So if it sounds an E flat, what are we going to write? Ta-da! A B flat. Well, how about an alto saxophone? The player is reading and playing a D. What will that note actually sound like? Well, stop the video and figure it out. So the player is a written D, and sounds are lower than written. So we need to go down a major sixth to find that sounding pitch. A major sixth below a D is F. Hey, why F and not F sharp, you ask? Well, because D down to F sharp, that's only a minor sixth. D down to F is a major sixth, and all E flat instruments sound a major sixth lower than written. Okay, one more. You need a clarinet player to play a note that sounds F sharp. So what are you going to write in his part? Stop the video and figure it out. Okay, easy, right? The sound is F sharp, and we know that sounds are lower than written. So we need to go up a major second to find the pitch we have to write for him. A major second higher than F sharp then is G sharp or A flat. They're the same thing, right? Doesn't matter really, except wind players mostly prefer reading flats than sharps. So why don't you ask yourself some questions and then get with someone else in the class to check your work? Now that could be fun. One more thing, kind of for extra credit on Wednesday's quiz. The following instruments are also in B flat and E flat. Bass clarinet, tenor sax, and treble clef baritones are in B flat. And baritone saxophones and contralto clarinets are in E flat. So these B flat instruments, the bass clarinet, tenor sax, and treble clef baritone, they still sound a second lower than written. And those E flat instruments, the bari sax and the contralto clarinet, they also sound a major sixth lower than written. But in all of these cases, you have to add an octave. So a bass clarinet actually sounds a second and an octave lower than written. And a bari sax, well, it sounds a major sixth and an octave lower than written. So the sounding pitch of C will be written way up here for bass clarinet. Why? Because it's a major second, it's a B-flat instrument, and an octave. And the same sounding pitch of C will be written here for a bari sax to play, a major sixth and an octave. I'll throw a couple of these on Wednesday's quiz just for extra credit. That's because I'm a really nice guy. So if you have questions as you work with this transposition stuff, shoot me an email. And I'll see you Wednesday. Be safe out there.